one and all. Welcome to the Supplement Central podcast. My name is Robert Chinesky, the supplement engineer. Joining me, my brothers in arms in the supplement industry, Robert Samborski, Apollo Nutrition, Justin Hall, Supplement Snoop, and the newly launched, soon to be mega fantastically successful MyQ.
Yeah, we even got the new branding going on here. This is
Go.
this is a big
Tilt your
moment.
camera up a little bit, and so we can see it all in all of its glory, and get your big old head out the way.
All right, let me. Which way do I go?
There you
There it is.
go.
It actually, I was telling these guys, it actually lights up. Kristen got it for me for Christmas, and but it was a little too overwhelming. It was a little too much bright light coming from behind me. So we decided to leave it on there a little bit.
Speaking of your better half, hey yo.
Yeah, she did a good job with this.
What's up, Miss Kristen? How are you?
So yeah, we haven't done one of these in a long time.
I'm out of practice. I haven't done a podcast since the three of us last did this back in
Yeah, I don't think
whenever
so.
that was, August.
I don't think so
September
either.
timeframe?
I haven't. It's been a while. I know,
Yeah,
Rob. We did.
a
We did
couple, a
before.
couple of months. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Happy New Year, one and all. Post up any comments, questions, queries, quips, or smart ass remarks you've got. We'll be here until we get bored or you stop asking us questions, one of the two, or I run out of bourbon. So we'll see what happens.
What do you
Any and
got
all
going
things
on?
are welcome.
What
Say it
do you
again?
got going? What do you got going on there, bourbon?
Right now, I have Still Austin cask strength, and then if that runs out, we'll figure out something else afterwards.
Anything cask strength is we're good to go. I don't know. So I don't know if I shared it with you the other day. We got to drive up to Virginia in a couple weeks. I won the online lottery for a Bowman cask strength up in Virginia. It's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be
Yeah,
good.
I've tried the regular Bowman Brothers, they're 90 proof. I have yet to try the John J. Bowman, their single barrel, which is
It's so
supposed to be
good.
great. I mean, like
It
they
is.
source the distillate from Buffalo Trace, and then they do one
Mhm.
other distillation once they get it to the. And I know you know this, but this is for all the listeners that aren't nerdy
Yeah.
about bourbon like we are. They do another distillation at the distillery in Virginia, and then they package it in the John J. Bowman stuff and all of that. So
Yeah. No, it's good stuff. Yeah, I feel you, Pete. It's
yeah.
Pete's already he's already starting.
Get big in the 973. I wish I knew what area code that was. If anybody knows, let me
New
know.
Jersey.
Jersey. Okay, well there we go.
Yeah, that's Lucas. How are you, Lucas?
Yeah, Luca, I talked to him for the first time maybe like a week ago. He does
Great
a lot of
guy.
good. He does a lot of good Apollon breakdowns.
Excellent. Heinkoss. Evening, gents. Hello. Maria. Hi, Maria. It is freezing. It was freezing here in Texas this morning, although we got all the cold with no snow, which if it's going to be this cold when I wake up, it was 16 this morning. If it's going to be that cold, I don't see the point if there's no snow.
Yeah, that's true, especially like with the wind. Because I was just talking to Michael. I think everybody knows that my manufacturing gets done in Texas, and it's getting shipped out this week, and it's supposed to arrive hopefully within the next week. This next big batch that we ordered, and it's like, yeah, hopefully it gets there in a decent amount of time because it's just so screwed, like in the whole like South, and then they're not used to it down here, so.
Yeah. Pete, got to grow a pair and dive into the single malt scotch.
Yeah.
I've had a few scotches. I love bourbon so much.
Yeah.
That it's higher proof typically and cheaper. Younger age, but America. Bought a decent bourbon a few weeks ago. Bullet is good. Did you do the regular Bullet or their 10-year?
Yeah, both good stuff.
Yeah. Allen, Heroic Vision. These three gents are dangerous together.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All
All right, gents.
Yeah,
So what's up
yeah.
first on the docket? We're caught up with the comments. Keep them coming, everyone. We'll get to them. Just because we don't get to them immediately, just we might be in the thread of conversation. So we will get to anything and everything that's asked during the course of our conversation tonight. But first, let's recap 2023. Highs, lows. Where are we going this year in 2024?
I heard this, I don't know, Apollon, I think something like that. I kept seeing them pop up every 2 days on Stacked in 2023. And I don't know if you've heard about them, but it was apparently a big year. I tell this to Robbie all the time. I was like, dude, I've been up to my elbows with one SKU. I don't know how you do this every week with every single SKU and flavor. It was a lot of Apollon in 2023. Probably what even more in 2023 than in 2022.
Yeah, it was definitely more in 2023 than 2022. But you know what the thing is that in 2022 we had bigger plans than we actually achieved. So a couple of SKUs were delayed, and there were still problems with a little bit with supply. So they kind of like were moved to 2023. So it kind of accumulated, and it's just one of those things that happened, and we were on a roll, and we just said, you know what, fuck it, let's continue. And I'm a firm believer that obviously not all the products are going to be a huge hit, because pre-workout proteins, they definitely dominate. That's without saying anything. But we just had kind of idea after idea, and it accumulated, and it was like, you know what, fuck it, let's do it, and let's have a big year. And I think we did. I mean, clearly we did. And I think it helped us because I always have, and it's no secret, a lot of companies are putting a lot of money into advertising and marketing, which is right. I mean, that's the way it should be. But I always believe that your products are your biggest advertisement. I mean, your product will speak for itself. If you have a good product, I think that that's going to go a long way, because the truth is, and I'm a firm believer in it. I can sell you once anything once, but if the product is shit, no matter who I'm going to pay, how I'm going to advertise, where I'm going to post, you're just not going to spend your money anymore, because you know what, you fell for it once and you're not going to fall for it again. But if you have a good product, it's going to find its consumer. So we said, you know what, instead of pumping a lot of money into advertising, because let's face it, you can hire a bunch of people, whether it's influencers or, content creators, and they will say anything because you're paying them. Even if it's not true, they will hype up your product. But once the product is with a customer, with a consumer, if he doesn't like it, that's it. You know what? It's not going to help. So I think that, considering that we invested instead of into marketing, we invested mostly into product, and the product helped to advertise and promote the brand. And I think a lot more people realized, what we were doing. And I think the following, the customer base, sales, everything increased. So it justified what we've done. Obviously profits are good, but when you're buying such volumes, you're buying volumes of products, and you're buying more than you used to buy, then you don't really make profit, because everything goes back. I mean, I'm pretty sure your second or third batch is, by the time you run out of the first one, you already have to buy a second one. So you don't get to enjoy the money, because if you're a smart businessman, you have to reinvest. And that's just the fact.
Yeah, I've been walking people through the process. It's because sometimes it's easier to start someone with, I just launched one SKU, so it's a little bit easier for people to understand. And I was telling them, and like you guys, this, I have my second round of the product. We had to order double this time, so it's showing up hopefully like a week from now. I put in the process a week after we launched. When I saw the initial like surge of how many people were buying it and liking it, I started the process on November 18th. If you go back through my text messages, because you have to order the labels first, that was the first message I sent, was on November 18th. So I had to be 2 months ahead of when I thought I was going to run out. And I mean, this stuff is going to arrive like literally as the last, and I only have one SKU. You can't run out if you only have one. Like, there's nothing else to sell. So what you have going on with all this other stuff is almost to a point where it's like no one could really understand that. But before we like switch any other topics, there was one thing I wanted to ask you, because one of the cool things you did this year, and we had talked a lot about collaborations in the past. And I know how some people's like licensing deals where, it's pretty generic how this company says, hey, license our whatever it is, our flavor, our movie or whatever, and pay this price per. But you went one of my favorite products the whole entire year, your collaboration on the protein, the hazelnut protein. We haven't talked about this. How, as much detail as you can give, how did that, because I know how a lot of the generic ones happen, and I know how you felt about the generic collaborations. So I'm kind of curious, like, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you was like, how did that even like come about? And it worked out so awesome, by the way.
So the thing is that you already know, like you said, how the licensing works. You approach the company, you negotiation take place, and you have probably to pay a certain fee, and they have to agree to it, and that's pretty much a done deal. And I've seen, Ghost has done a spectacular job doing it. And then obviously everybody, because we have a lot of, in this industry, what I keep saying is we have a lot of copycats. Everybody copies each other. And not necessarily that it's wrong and it's not illegal. I mean, that's something that you can copy any brand. But I think it gets a little bit boring and it gets a little bit generic, like you said. I mean, it's repetitive and there's no mystery. And not only that, I'm not going to name brands, but I've tried few of the brands that collaborated with these giants, and they just don't taste good. They just do not taste good. I mean, I'm sure you've tried a couple of products. Robert, you've tried a couple of products. They don't taste and they don't even remotely close to the original. And that's what I figured, that's business. That's pure business. Could Apollon do it? I mean, Apollon is not such a big company, but at the same time, I think that we could have pulled it off. In fact, we talked, I think, to two big players, and we could have pulled it off. There is a lot of paperwork and a lot of headaches and stuff like that, but it's not that complicated. It's not that complicated. And at the end, it's all about money, and obviously they're getting exposure. So it's not complicated, I would say, at all. Pretty much anyone with a little bit of money, you don't have to have a lot of money, anyone can do it. So that's the reason when one of the podcasts, I think we've done it with Robert, maybe even with you, where I said, you know what, I'm not interested in that. I think that goes, can I do it? Yes, I can. What am I going to accomplish? One of the things that Apollon is known for is that we do it our way. We do it, in a unique way. And, when Robert and I sometimes we discuss formulas, I just, by the way, Robert, I looked at the greens formula that we did about 2 years ago, and you're a fucking lunatic. You're fucking ridiculous. I compared it to every greens formula. I finally got to it. I compared it to every other greens formula on the market. Number one, we're going to be broke if we do it because you're crazy. But again, that's what people come to expect from us.
The theme there.
Yeah, that's what they come to expect from us, that we're going to do fully dosed products and products that actually work. And yes, they're going to be expensive, but at the same time, if you look at the prices that we charge, I mean, they're not that expensive considering what you're getting in a product. So I said I don't want to copy anyone. I don't want to do anything that everybody else does. So I was not interested in collaborations at all. When Panda reached out and they said they want to do it, we did it. It was fun. I mean, more than anything, it was just a fun project. It was very, very quick. It was successful. But if I have to be perfectly honest about it, and that's the only way I know how to answer this question, I wasn't impressed. I wasn't impressed. It wasn't a masterpiece, I mean, it wasn't something unique. And, I'm basically, and I don't want anyone to get a wrong idea that I'm shitting on my own product because it was my product and Panda's. I'm not. I just was not impressed. It looked like sort of a little bit of Panda, a little bit of Apollon, but we literally had better products this year, a lot better pre-workouts than that collaboration. It was great label. It was fun, but I was glad when it was over. It sold out pretty quickly, but I was actually down on myself because I said, you know what, this is not what Apollon is all about. We are about triumph and doing things like the chocolate hazelnut protein. This is what we are about. And I felt like we kind of became a little bit generic with that product. And I mean, you know what I'm saying. I'm not trying to disrespect Panda. I'm not trying to disrespect my own company. I'm not. It was still a solid pre-workout, but it was just one of many others, and that's not cool in my book. That's not like you did your supplement and it stands out because it's one pill, but it performs very well and it's done differently from what you would expect from a one pill product. There's obviously thought went into it and it's done differently, and that's what I want to do with a palm. So last year, and I'm sure I can say it, Carolina received her green card, and we went to celebrate to this macaroon place that she knew, and it was fucking phenomenal. I mean, they had all kind of beautiful desserts, and they told us that the pastry chef is from France, and he just happened to be on premises. And I wish I could take credit for it, but all of a sudden Carolina goes like, "Let's talk to him. He had a couple of locations, and let's see what we can do. Maybe collaborate on one of his pastries." I mean, I said, "Yeah, sure." So she talked to him. He didn't know what we were talking about.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna say, he's like, "What the hell?"
He's so
What
far
is this?
away from a supplement industry that
Yeah.
he had no idea. But he was like, "Yeah, sure, okay. You know what? Okay, that's fine." And we picked two of his pastries. So he picked, or Carolina picked, I don't even remember. And we took the pastries actually to our manufacturer. We drove over there, we brought it, like, okay, try this. If you can nail the flavor, great. And, I mean, our proteins are pretty good. The guy who does our flavors, he's really good.
Yeah.
And he did the samples, we got the samples, and typically we approve everything that he does on a first or second try. That's how good he is. Yeah, we just give it to people around the gym, people approve it, and that's it. So it's easy. And we tried it, and we thought it was phenomenal. I thought that it was like, whoa, this is cool. We took it to Pierre, to chef, and he goes, "It's horrible." He was like, "No, this is." But again, because to us, from within the supplement industry, we are impressed. But somebody who actually went to culinary school, and somebody who actually understands, or somebody like Kristen, you can't fool people like that. It's not even about fooling. We're just not that good. The flavors that we have, they're not that good. They're good for supplement world. They're even delicious for supplement world. But when you compare it to actual pastries, to actual chocolates and stuff like that, it's a copy. It's a cheap copy. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So he said no. We went for another round, and he said no again. We went for another round, and he said no again. And I was getting pissed. My patient, I just couldn't handle it anymore. And it was a couple of times, many times. And then I finally kind of said, "You know what, guys? I feel bad for our manufacturer, and I'm not comfortable anymore doing it." But he was very fired up. He wanted to nail it. And it was two flavors, actually. And Carolina goes, "You know what? Let's go again." And I refused to go. I said, I'm not going. I'm done. I said, the flavors are perfect, but you know what? I mean, how many times are we going to do this? Because that was taking months now. And she went again, and he approved. We actually had video. We have a video of him approving it. I was shocked. I mean, we almost cried, that he approved. He approved actually both flavors. So the second collaboration with him is going to come out, I think, sometimes in the summer. But we thought that was very, very, very cool, to do something like that. And even considering our flavors are good, that one just stands out. That one is it's a different beast. It's completely different beast. I mean, you've tried it already. Robert, I gotta send you. It tastes different. It's a different level.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think so to like backtrack, so you're just eating at this macaroon place and Carolina goes, "I'm gonna go to the chef and say, let's collaborate."
Yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. Yeah,
that's amazing. Because like what you're saying, and
it's different.
Right, because not that everyone's like this or every collaboration is like this, but I think it kind of ties into what you were saying where there was, I think, maybe at one point sort of an art to the collaborations, and then it was just basically we could do it over an email. A company would be like, "Here's our license, we'll take a chunk of your money, click, there we have a collaboration and everybody get hype about it. Where it just that's where you kind of go, okay, there's nothing collaborative about that. You're just slapping your thing on our thing, and we're calling it our thing together, and then not really a lot of collaborating, or like a lot of, when people are calling it that, it's like, yeah, that's not really a collaboration. It's just sort of us using each other in a weird kind of way. So to actually, I kind of had a feeling that's how it worked, especially with, I know how you feel about collaborations, but that's a pretty funny, and something that you probably never would have done. I would have never done that.
No, I would never. Then
That's
it
something
never
Kristen
crossed
would
my
do.
mind.
Yeah.
It didn't cross my mind, but I thought it was very, very cool. But these are the type of collaborations that really are outside the box, and that's what you want to do. You want to collaborate with people that are maybe come from different industries, or just something cool. Right now, I mean, we've done with collaboration with Panda, and I've seen a few other brands that, I'm not saying copying us because that's been done before, where two companies collaborated, but I think what we've done, and as far as I remember, I think we were the first ones to do it, where we collaborated two of our own products together. I thought that was fun. Like we've done with Time Cop and Double Impact. I thought that was a lot of fun. Simple, but fun.
Mhm.
That was very simple. But I think that you just need to do, a little bit riskier projects, and I think a little bit more fun, because customers are getting tired of the same thing, same flavor, same approaches. And not only that, I mean, do you really want to be somebody who copied somebody else's idea? I
Right.
mean, it's just, we can't do a lot in terms of ingredients, because ingredients, when it comes to pre-workouts and aminos and fat burners, they're either good or bad. But I mean, if you want to formulate something good and I want to formulate something good, there's a very good chance that my formula and yours are going to have similarities. So we're not necessarily ripping each other off. That's just the way it is. But if you want to do a collaboration, it has to be something fun, and not just, oh, look, Ghost did it. Let me do what Ghost did. Oh, look, Ghost has a label like that. Let me do what they do. And interestingly enough, most of the time, you will not be as successful as the original. Most of the time, the original's still going to get the credit. The original's still going to get all the hype and all the recognition. I mean, we've seen with, I use Conor McGregor as an example. Everybody's trying to be like him. Everybody. For a while, we had like Conor copycats running around the fight world, and everybody calling each other out, and everybody's cursing each other. And it looks so fake. It looks so ridiculous. It looks so pathetic. And I told somebody recently, I said, Conor can lose 10 fights in a row, and people still going to watch him. People still will root for him, and people will still going to buy pay-per-views to see him lose, because they hate him so much, but they're still going to pay for it, because he's unique and he brings something to the table original that nobody else has. So I think that we should do the same. I mean, if we can do cool collaborations, great. But if not, I mean, I'm not going to copy anyone. So I'm not going to do, at least I'm going to try not to do what everybody else does. And if I do collaborate, it's going to be with somebody, not a hardcore company and a hardcore company, premium something and premium something. I mean, there should be something different where it's almost unexpected.
Well, and I think, like, to what you're saying too, and this is kind of how I felt, was someone has to open the door for us to go, hey, holy shit, this is possible. So you don't have to be first in order to do something cool, right? Like, so if Ghost, or what did we figure out? Like Muscle Tech did it a long time ago. But so say Ghost makes the licensing collaborations cool, then that gets everyone else thinking, but then you're going, how can I do that? But how can I do that in a different way? How can I put my own stamp on it? And that's how really cool stuff happens, is, someone sort of makes the first move, and then you go, well, how can I improve on that? There's lots of companies, Microsoft is a good example. They've never done anything innovative. They wait for someone else to kind of do it, and they try to improve on it. And or Apple, there's like examples of that all over the place. You don't have to be first, and even being first sometimes not a good idea, because you're the one that has to convince everyone it's a good idea, and you're the one that has to spend a lot of resources educating people. So sometimes it's better to kind of sit back and see if it's something, and then put your own stamp on it. Like once I started to see all of the like non-stim nootropics, and nootropics started to become really popular. And then I started to see them get like really weird. I started to see people have like some negative experiences with them from long-term use and stuff. I'm like, I think that I want to try something in this space, but do it just a little bit differently. It's the same kind of thing. Like I'm certainly not the first person to come up with a brain health nootropic, kind of thing. But I was like, I think I can do a little bit different thing. And, you don't have to make something revolutionary. You can just put your own little spin on it, and it comes across as authentic, like what you guys did.
Yeah, but you know what? To give you credit, I remember when we talked about this first time on the podcast, you said something that really triggered me, and I was like, okay, this is smart. When where most companies target the meatheads, the power lifters and bodybuilders and strength and conditioning and fighters, I remember your opening line was, I want to do something that my parents can use.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, this is a different angle. This I like. Because what people are missing the point is that supplements are not just for athletes. It's not just for bodybuilders. It's not just for muscles. I mean, a lot of people can benefit from supplements quite a bit. I was just bragging to everybody for the past 2 days how last year my cholesterol levels were through the roof, like literally through the roof, where they wanted to put me on statins, and it was pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of going to give it away now, but Robert and I told Robert that I'm really fucked up on. My cholesterol is pretty bad, and I remember I was like, can we maybe put together something? We would talk to Marina, talk to Robert, and we put together something that would be for heart and lipids and stuff like that. Remember, Robert, that was last year. Well, I've been taking it. I've been literally taking it without statins. And I lowered my cholesterol by about 80 points. My doctor fucking freaked out. And I'm not lying. This is actually a true story. I'm working right now on releasing the product myself, but I experimented on myself. So it has nothing to do with bodybuilding, and it has nothing to do with working out or anything like that. Yes, I've used drugs. Yes, it's true. It maybe contributed somehow. But it's very genetic. It's genetics. It's definitely genetics. It's something that I have. My mother had it. Everybody in my family has high blood pressure and cholesterol issues and diabetes. Well, I just did my blood work, and I'm turning 49 next month. And this is the best blood work that I've had in years. The results were phenomenal. So to go back to your product, when you said that you're going to do something that your parents can use, you had me. I was sold. That was it. To me, that was the trigger. And I think that's how it should be approached, because I think Steve Calabrese posted something yesterday about the fact that, everybody's releasing pre-workouts.
I was just going to mention this.
Yeah, he's not wrong. I mean, he is definitely not wrong. I do understand. I mean, I'm guilty as charged. I'm also releasing a lot of pre-workouts, but, because you're still running a business. But at the same time, there are so many other products. Robert and I discussed a couple of products yesterday also, that have absolutely nothing to do with pre-workouts. And they probably not going to sell as well as pre-workouts do. That's okay. There's just so much you can do. And you don't have to target just that specific group of people, bodybuilders. There's so much more.
Well, were there any changes to your diet with the reduction in cholesterol levels, Robbie? Did you stop? I know you love red meat. So did you cut
back? I increased my red meat consumption, and I've been having. I'm not saying that anyone should repeat what I did, because this is personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not lying to you. Each breakfast starts with 6 whole eggs. Whole eggs, no egg whites. 6 whole eggs is my typical. Well, I love eggs, but it's 6 whole eggs every morning, no changes, no matter what. And then at night, here and there, I'll have another 2, 3. And we're talking whole eggs. Steak, I will have steak probably 3 times a week, at least. So I didn't reduce shit when it comes to that. And again, I'm cooking on olive oil and avocado oil and stuff like that, because healthy fats are important. But like I said, my total cholesterol dropped quite a bit. My good cholesterol has increased. I did drop a little bit my carbohydrates. because again, they're not essential, but I increased my greens. I've been having a little bit more in terms of greens. And I know Robert is a big fan of salads, and I wasn't, and actually now I am. So that's the only change that I've made, is that a little bit more greens into my diet. Red meat I did not touch. In fact, like I said, I increased it, but it's the pretty much the combination that we put together last year. I've been having it religiously, and I was convinced that that it will help. I just didn't know that it's going to help that much.
Yeah, I think whenever I hear people, I've mentioned this before, but people will say, supplements are useless, and it's just
Bullshit.
like, I'm like, you don't get it. But like, I was also going to bring up what Steve said as well, because part of the conversation is pretty much all people, say pretty much all people, but all people that we know, the first supplement that you use is either whey protein or pre-workout. So my thought process with the brain food was, okay, we all start with the pre-workout, and that gets you excited about supplements. So I don't, and it's almost like when I look at certain companies that maybe don't make the greatest formulas. I'm not really a big fan, but say they're really good at bringing new people into our space, then it's okay, because once these new customers come in, then it's kind of up to us to sort of be like, okay, I appreciate that you like this product and you love this pre-workout and this hardcore pre-workout. I mean, I've used all kinds of crazy fucking hardcore pre-workouts, but it's like at some point you want to kind of be like, there is other things out there. And if you can't make someone, start to think about certain things. You can't force feed them necessarily a product and try to get them, but they will be ready, at some point. It's why, like, when I originally started to formulate this product, this has been the most surprising thing to me from day one. I really didn't think that I would notice it that much. Like I just like, I'm like, I've used so many supplements, I've used so many nootropics. I said I really want to target a specific person. I feel like once you're in this game for long enough, you start to realize how many supplements are really beneficial. So then you want to pass that along to other people. And that was the concept. I said, I can get my parents to start taking this stuff. And everyone knows someone that's been affected in this type of way. So you could like, okay, it's our job now. We've gone through it. We started to find the things that work. Let's now help the people that we care about, right? So then I come up with this formula and we start to use it. I'm like, I feel this so much. And like other people started to feel it. And I'm like, well, all right, I guess maybe I'm gonna change how I approach this. Now it's gonna touch on more people than I expected. So I've changed my plans with this product already, probably 5 or 6 times, just in the last couple of months, just because I really was like, I want to put it out there and I want to see. I'm like, I don't know the answers necessarily, like up front. Even lately, like we're still unraveling some of the stuff that's going on with it. We had this really great conversation with Tim Gritzman the other day. He sent me a fascinating study about the resveratrol that's in brain food and how it does some. And so we started talking about this study, and I'm like, well, that does explain why certain things are happening. But I freely admit I had no idea when I put this thing together, like that it would do certain things. So it's just been kind of a neat process. But I think it's our job, as we grow up a little bit, like, okay, we're doing more things for ourselves. Let's also try to help the people that rely on us, because it's too difficult for them to accumulate the knowledge we have over decades, perhaps. So it's like now we got to do the right thing and pay it forward a little bit.
Yeah. Shane at Stacked teased that there may be a powder version of your supplement coming.
Yeah.
Do you drop any nuggets about where you might be leaning for flavor or how many flavors?
Oh, sure. Yes. So, and here's another thing that I changed right away. So the original plan that I thought on paper, I would have an AM brain food formula and then a PM, because the nighttime, not necessarily like a sleep aid, but some sort of pre-bed, because all that memory creation and the repair, there's so much going on, before bed when it cognitively. I was like, I want to come up with something really cool that helps people, sleep at night, get restorative sleep. So I wanted to come up with an AM one pill and then PM one pill, and then you can kind of stack it together. But man, I'm telling you, like and this is the honest truth, and I said this today on my stories because someone asked me about it. I said I could make a product right now. I know a formula. I had a formula down, but it's not. It would help people, I'm sure, but I'm not sure if it's even a good idea long term, because there's a lot of these things that we're using for people to like calm down, and it kind of like changes your mood a little bit, but it ruins your actual like sleep architecture. So you're sleeping, but you're not really getting. So I'm just not really sure about some actual answers there. Like I could make a product and I could release one, but also the most shocking thing about the brain food is people started immediately telling me how much better they were sleeping. So it's kind of one of those things. They're taking it in the morning, and then 16 hours later, they're showing me that they're getting more REM sleep. They're getting better, deeper, restorative sleep. Like they're tracking this, and so I mean, dude, you take something at night to sleep better. You take something in the morning for energy. That's how we're trained to sort of behave. But I'm trying to unravel this. So I'm like, well, now if I make something for the PM, is that going to mess up, what's happening in the AM? So anyway, too many questions. So what I always wanted to do was make. I always envisioned like a really just like an orange, like a really good orange juice flavor, where it almost like, because I want people to be able to have the coffee and things in the morning, but like a nice orange colored orange juice, really killer flavor to have first thing in the morning. And that was always on my mind, what I wanted to do. But what we'll do is we'll add some other things to it, because we won't have the constrictions of the one capsule. But I found that electrolytes really, really help with the delivery. A little bit of, as you know, Robert, a little bit of sodium for creating acetylcholine, like the whole thing works together. So we're going to start sampling out some flavors. Should be any day now. I was just talking to those guys about it today. I want to do like an orange juice, maybe a different kind of breakfast juice kind of flavor. And then someone asked about, could we make something that goes into coffee? And I thought that was a really cool idea. So we'll probably do something in that area I kind of changed my plans. I said, I really want to focus on this one. I think we really have something here, and I want to focus on this thing and really get it to as many people as possible before we start delving into areas that I'm still not 100% sure about. Yeah, something like that.
Brain food tang flavor.
Yeah, the only thing was, so you'll enjoy it. Robert, you'll know this one like above anything. So I said to the guys over at Glaxon at Zero Day, I said, yeah, I want to make an orange juice flavor. He was like, okay. He sends me, there's like 16 different orange juice flavors, like mandarin orange or like sunrise orange or orange squeeze or orange. I'm like, I don't know. Like,
thanks, Joey.
Send me all of them and we'll try to figure something out. So we'll figure out some kind of orange juice. I just always had that vision. I wanted to, and then we'll do it like in stick packs probably. I think that would be cool for a lot of people like that are outside of our space, thinking about them at the same time. And I also want to try to continue to bring our costs down to get it to around $1 serving per day. So those are my goals with that.
Excellent. All right, listeners, keep firing away with the comments and questions. We had some listeners submit questions for us to tackle. So first up, from Lucas Ritkowski, my Polish brother from another mother. Any new ingredients you plan to use in your upcoming formulas? Do you use any other brands? If yes, which products, brands do you like to support? So I guess let's start with the latter question first. Do you use any other brands? If yes, which products and brands do you like to support?
I think I asked Robbie this. So was that question aimed at me?
I think it's a collective kind of thing.
Okay. There I won't
So-
say anything.
I'll
I'm trying-
start.
I'm trying to
obviously, I
behave.
use Apollon stuff. So there are two other long-term contract clients I have. I don't know if I have their permission to say which ones it is. Robbie and Justin know which two those are, I believe. If not, I can fill them in on the back end. Anyway, I use those two brands, and if you listen to this podcast enough, you've heard me drop their names at certain other points. Sandy has tried their proteins and loved their proteins, and also that a separate brand's Nootropic. Outside of that, I mean, on a regular basis, I use NutriCost. I order them for all my bulk ingredients because they're third-party tested, affordable products, great stuff all around. In my day,
wait.
Life Extension.
Before you move on, because a lot of people, I always mention Life Extension, but a lot of people ask me about NutriCost, and I always tell them, I was like, from everything I see, I was like, I think you're good to go. But do you know more about like I don't know anything. Like I know more about Life Extension than NutriCost, so I don't know if you know more. Like they obviously make their own stuff. They're obviously huge. But I don't know if you know anything more about like what they got going on over there that I can pass along to other people, because people ask me about them all the time.
I wish I did. I mean, if I like, even if I could just like get my foot in the door, like have a conversation or get one of the owners on the podcast or just start writing some website content for them, be up for that in a heartbeat, because the amount of stuff we bought since 2020 from them is a lot. So, I mean, I bought bulk NAC from them, spirulina, all the mushroom fruiting bodies, so shiitake, reishi, chaga, lion's mane, astragalus, I buy from them. What else have we bought from them over the years? CoQ10, KSM 66, ashwagandha, whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Because people always ask me like their prices, and I usually present it in a way I'm like, it's like for all of us, like the more you order, the cheaper you get it, which makes sense. Like I was telling people, if this next run, I doubled my order, so hopefully I can lower the cost. It lowers the cost for me, and then hopefully I lower the cost for the customer too. So NutriCost is ordering at a level that, and they're obviously removing, layers to the supply chain as well. I was talking to somebody about that today. They were asking me about, Rob, I don't know if you've ever done this, where you just order your own ingredients, but you have to have your own facility that you can store them safely. So that's why you usually do it as a manufacturer. But then some manufacturers are cool with it. Like you can just, and then you send it to your manufacturer to have them blend it. Or you can just have your manufacturer order it. But then again, you're going to pay a charge for your manufacturer to order and store it. So, which adds up, after a while, like if you're ordering huge quantities, that stuff adds up. So NutriCost obviously has their own vertically integrated storage facility and manufacturing facility and stuff. But I don't know that much about them. I just know they have some killer prices on some pretty good stuff, obviously.
I'll be right back, gents.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that was a general question before I.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that I can speak for myself. Obviously, in terms of Apollon has so much stuff right now that pretty much everything I need. From a multivitamin perspective, to fish oil, to whatnot. I mean, obviously protein and stuff like that I use.
Yeah.
But as standalone products, I go to NutriCost as well, because number one, they reasonably priced. The quality is pretty much proven. I mean, it's a high quality company, big brand. And then there's also another company that I've been using, and it was given to me by my doctor, and they actually products, again, not affiliated with them at all, and it's called Designs for Health.
Designs for Health.
Yeah, they a little bit on the pricey side. They're a little bit on the pricey side, but the quality and the products are just absolutely fucking phenomenal. It's just definitely completely like different level.
Oh yeah, I've seen their their labels before. I knew that sounded familiar. You know,
Yeah,
and I always tell people, I said we all use and we all love the sports nutrition supplements and these things. But I said, and I tell customers this all the time. I tell people to ask questions. I said, if you go into any one of our closets, anybody, any brand owner, anybody up and down the supplement chain that knows about supplements, they will have something from Life Extension, something from NutriCost or whatever in their cupboard. I guarantee.
yeah, because they staple, and I mean, they're good products, and sometimes you need a standalone, sometimes you don't need a formula. I mean, if it
Mhm.
comes when it comes to protein, obviously, we have it covered. Once in a while, I will try somebody else's protein, basically just out of curiosity, research purposes, checking the flavor and stuff like that. So I will give it a shot. But I use our protein, obviously. Pre-workouts. I'll be honest, I use pre-workouts on and off, not all the time. Um, I use Enigma all the time. Fat burners as needed. I will pump ingredients also because I mean I don't train for pump necessarily. It's just different kind of training. And then standalone, like I said, it's Nutricosta Designs for Health. I mean, that's pretty much my go-to. In terms of other brands, um, it's not about supporting other brands because I can't really say that I support financially other brands because that would be a
Right.
lie. There is
Yeah.
no need for it. Um, I think that I respect, that would be a better word rather than support. I respect certain brands, like obviously Ben, Morphogen. I mean, that's a solid company. I always had utmost respect for NutraBio because, they were always reliable. Um, and there are a couple of other companies that obviously make good products. But in terms of supporting, no, not really supporting anyone.
Right.
I just admire certain people what they do, and since it's in this space, there are a lot of crooks and a lot of shit and a lot of products that are just not good. Clearly, it's very easy to name those that you actually, um, again, not support but admire because there's not many of them.
Well, it also kind of highlights the industry anyway, and this is not a bad thing. But if you saw a brand that was offering something that you weren't offering, you would probably just go make it yourself, right? So it's like
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're like, if another brand at this point, if another brand was making products that you had in your cupboard because you didn't have it, because there's just no real reason for you to go somewhere else. And that was one of the things that I always wanted to do. I've eventually got people to get with, because people keep asking me, they're like, well, they would ask me, can I stack brain food with this? Can I stack it with this and this and this and this? And I was like, you can stack it with anything. I
Yeah,
was like, and the reason why I made it that way is because I love, your products, and Ben makes cool products, and there's always people doing all this cool stuff. I said, why would I just make something that they're already doing? How about I make something that goes along with what they're doing, and then people can have fun, kind of like take your brain food and then see how it works, with other products, and people have been having a good time with that.
but that's exactly what we've been saying in the beginning of this podcast is that, uh, you will release something cool, and then somebody will try to release something that either looks like your product,
Right.
whether it's the label that looks like yours, or the container that looks like yours, or the formula that looks like yours. They're gonna try to capitalize off your success, and that's the reason why I'm so careful with what we do, because I want to make sure that we do something unique and something different. But at the same time, I have absolutely no problems giving credit where credit due and saying, okay, this company is doing things right, and that company is doing things right. But I also noticed, there are companies who are literally making nothing but pre-workouts. There are companies that making literally nothing but like one kind of product, just in different variations. So when somebody asked me recently, why do you have 4 or 5 pre-workouts? Because we do. I was like, yes, we do, but all of them are completely different. They
Mhm.
completely they different from each other. So they obviously cater to different people. Like, I know that you used to love and you still admire like high stem products, but you don't use them all the time, and it's not because of the health reasons or anything like that. It's just maybe your preferences have changed, and maybe your tolerance has changed, and maybe your approach to training has changed. You have your reasons, and plus on top of it, a leg workout and bicep tricep workout are not exactly the same. They don't
Right.
require the same level of maybe pre-workout. Or if you're going to be doing endurance training, then why the fuck would you use assassin or hooligan? That makes no sense either. So that's the
Great.
reason
Okay.
why, that's the reason why it's important to stick to what you do. But yeah, I mean, to say that I support other brands, no, support, no, admire, 100% yes. In terms of the other question that he asked, what other ingredients, that we're gonna use, um, you know what? I think that you and I will agree that that's not something that we're gonna disclose
Right.
today,
Not at all.
because again, I don't want somebody to beat me to it and then release something before me, or or somebody taking notes. Because we know that once you release, people will still copy you. That's a given, especially if you have a successful product. But right now, to say what ingredients I will use, let's see. The year just started, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, because I had asked you if that question was aimed at me, because I was like, why would Lucas ask me that? I was like, he knows I hate him. He doesn't like me. I was like, tell that professional ass kisser that I'll put like a clinical dose of like go fuck yourself in my next formula for him. But if it was a general question, I'll just tell him to mind your business.
Okay, next question.
Oh, there was one thing. There was one thing that you said that we didn't get a chance to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned NutraBio. So the whole NutraBio
Oh,
ghost thing was really crazy.
um, you know what? When it came out, I I said that a few times, and I talked to you about it. I thought that it was blown way, way, way out of proportion. It just in. There are only so many flavors, and there are so many things. NutraBio is a big company. I mean, it's a decent sized company. I was a
Mhm.
little bit surprised that they made such mistake. I was,
Yeah.
because clearly, they have Mark has a lot of employees, and they supposed at least to check it out. And I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. It's a big mistake. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a big mistake when you don't release a product. When you, yeah,
Can you catch me up? Catch me and the listeners up for what happened between NutraBio and Ghost?
So
go
I,
ahead.
yeah, I don't. Here's the basic idea that I understood, because I've been kind of in my own little world, obviously, for the last few months. So I saw sort of the fallout a little bit where NutraBio had created a product that had the flavor sour strips, something. It was like sour strips. Yeah, Nick, it was like sour strips something, right? There was like 3 words, but regardless, you can't call it sour strips. Like sour strips is a licensed IP in our space, and Ghost obviously has done the official collaboration with sour strips. Like a lot of brands will call it like sour straws, or almost they'll make it something close, right? I think like Man
Mhm.
Sports was one of the first ones that was really doing that. Like they would put like the likeness super close, but they wouldn't say the whole thing. A lot of people do that.
Yeah, which is very, very common.
Yeah. So then I know that Ghost did not take that too well, and I know Dan's never not on like Instagram and stuff anymore, so I don't really see him, but I guess he's on Twitter. So he said something about it. But what I saw later on that kind of, I had to take a step back a little bit, and I made a few comments. I thought it was strange. Mark, release, and I love NutraBio. I've been on NutraBio's train from day one because
They
I
have
saw
good
them
products.
years
I mean,
ago.
it's a solid company.
When I saw what they did for quality, I love Mark. I love NutraBio. I love Ghost too. Dan's a friend of mine. So it was crazy because I saw Mark had mentioned how they had made a mistake and they were fixing it and this and that. And I just remember thinking to myself, and I think even Ryan said the same thing. He was like, how does that happen? Like there's no way that gets through, that somebody didn't go, hey man, like we can't call it that.
Yeah.
But then everybody was in this putting Mark up on this like pedestal, like with all his integrity and all that, which Mark already gets tons of credit for integrity, which he deserves. Yeah. He does. I mean, his operation is integrity. But I was like,
agreed.
All right. He said he made a mistake, and he said he wasn't going to do it anymore. And I'm like, they couldn't get away with it. They wouldn't have been able to release a product. I said, so what does everybody? I don't know. It was like everybody was like carrying him around on social media, like he was this.
But you know what? I mean,
I just thought it was strange. But I missed a lot of what was going on. So
I think you're right, and I'm gonna agree with you on this one. So it was a mistake. I mean, I'm gonna give Mark benefit of a doubt because I know Mark. I consider Mark a friend, and I have a good relationship with him. I still think it's a big mistake because if it happens to, and it did happen to us actually once, and it happened to 2 or 3 other companies with us that also took something that we trademarked, and we reached out to them. That's what I didn't like. I thought that this could have been settled without any drama and everybody like glorifying what they're doing, and it was to me it was like a circus. It was like a real circus. So we had 3 companies, I think, that made a mistake and they used our name. We didn't, post it on social media.
I remember
none of that. We reached out to those companies. In fact, like I said, I mentioned it before. With one of them, I became very, very good friends. And they apologized. No harm was done. Nothing happened. And we squashed it. The products, I don't even think they were released at any point. So it wasn't a big deal. Nobody needed to go on social media and apologize. None of that was necessary. So in this case, and once there was a time where we actually messed up, we almost released something, and the company reached out to us also behind closed doors, and they mentioned, okay, this kind of belongs to us. We apologized. We said, okay, no problem. We changed the flavor, and it was pretty much it. So it was done. So sometimes, like if you have, Jason Arns actually said that recently, if you have a confrontation with somebody, just kind of face each other, talk it out, and that's it. If you absolutely need to sue somebody or you absolutely need to punch somebody in the face, do it. And even that can't be done without making a fucking circus act out of it. So then I have good relationship with Dan. I can't say that I have a better relationship. I don't like Dan. I have every time we talk, it's very, very respectful. So I like him. But Dan does like to dramatize things a little bit. And I do understand that he protects his business and protects his, brand, which he should technically. But once it was pointed out that this is not right, that this is wrong, at that point, as long as the product is not released and nothing is sold and things like that, basically say, see ya, okay, what's done is done. I was surprised that it kind of like passed through and, the mistake was made in the first place, considering, again, NutraBio is not a pawn, it's a big company. But you always have to give benefit of a doubt, and when somebody says, and Mark is, I consider him a man of honor, and I never had a problem with him. In fact, I always keep saying that I respect NutraBio, and Mark has helped me quite a bit. When I was getting started, I always give him credit where credit due. That lengthy apology was also, I think, not needed. There was no need because, again, it looked a little bit like an Oscar acceptance speech.
It's a good way to put it.
Or if a comedian says something and then they've got to retract it. I mean, just fuck
Yeah,
off with
Yeah.
some of that stuff, man. Just
it was just,
Yeah.
you know what, from the bottom of my heart, I apologize. I didn't
Mhm.
mean to. I love you, and I love you. I love everybody, you know. And then you have
Yeah.
a bunch of guys like sitting in the audience at the Oscars.
Yeah.
You're the best.
That's a good way to put
You're the
it. That's
best.
kind of how I felt. I was
You're the
like, what are we doing
greatest.
here?
You know, it
Yeah.
almost looked like somebody, you know, everybody likes, you know, an apology. Everybody likes, you know, a good story. And this was just fucking blown, like Lucas said, that this was blown completely out of proportion and was not needed on both sides and should have been squashed and just move the fuck on. You both have great companies. You both have bigger things to do than to do this, and just like move the fuck away from it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good
And
way
I
to put it.
also think along the lines of using somebody else's name, I believe y'all were the first ones to use the name Cluster Bomb on your carbohydrate supplement.
Yeah,
Isn't that correct, Riley? Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
I'm not going to mention any other brands, but I'm pretty sure Apollon had the name
it's
Cluster
fine.
Bomb for
I actually,
carbohydrate supplement first.
so the name Cluster Bomb actually came from a member of Apollon Gym who passed away a couple of years ago, and I remember he was actually prepping for a show, and he was on the Stairmaster, and we were good friends, and it was a third product I think that we released in 2015. And we talked about it, and I said clusterdextrin, you know, cyclic dextrin, and it goes to be Cluster Bomb. I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. So we used that name, and we released the product, but we never trademarked it. We never did. But, you know, I mean, you know, the law says that the first to name the product, that's
Right.
basically yours.
Right.
We released the product, it was known, and then Radcon was coming out with Dayline, and they released Cluster Bomb too. They announced that Cluster Bomb is coming out, but they never released it. I mean, at that time, they didn't release it yet. That's what I'm trying to say. And we contacted them through a mutual friend, and Apollon at that point was like literally selling just out of Apollon Gym. It's like a no-name brand. We said that we were the first one, and NutraBio actually manufactured for us first that product. So obviously we had all the receipts, we had everything that we paid. I mean, obviously it was documented that we were the first one. However, Radcon did register it. They did trademark it. They were the first to trademark it. So it was basically who is in the right. I mean, clearly we were in the right, and we even told them that we were the first one to release it. But because we never thought that, you know, Apollon Nutrition, again, I always said that we never had, at least not in the beginning, we didn't have aspirations to go to where we are today. We were like, well, fuck it, you know. And they also didn't do anything about it. There were a couple of empty promises that they're gonna do something about it, and you know, there were a few scare tactics, but obviously nothing came out because we did release it first. So it's a situation where it didn't come out, and then they didn't do anything about it. We didn't do anything about it. So there are two cluster bombs on the market, and to be honest with you, I don't give a shit.
Good.
Yeah, I think they were.
Let it go that way.
Yeah, they were one of the first companies to release a collagen product, but they just didn't call it a collagen product. They called it a meal replacement product. It was just actually a collagen product. There was a another example of that. The guys, they were at one of the Apollon events a couple years ago. The PWR guys, they got into a court battle with Wonder Woman. She, the chick that plays Wonder Woman, wanted to release her own supplement line called PWR supplements or whatever, and they had already had theirs. And I don't think they had it like trademarked, but it was the same kind of deal. They went fought over it in court or whatever, but they won because they were, you know, first to market kind of thing.
Yeah. That's what, when I had a conversation with John Meadows way back, I mean, it's like he was one of the first 5 or 10 guests I had on the podcast. This was right after he had started Granite Supplements, and his original pre-workout at the time was Arc Reactor, which is the same little unit Tony Stark, Iron Man, has in his chest. And I said, isn't there going to be, because he's a huge comic book nerd, for as big as he is and as cuddly of a teddy bear John Meadows is, he was a giant comic book dork, which I loved. The first one of, you know, Thanos was his favorite villain. One of the times I met him at the Arnold, he wore this giant, like, bright pink shirt. And I just thought, man, you are really comfortable in your manhood to be walking around in a bright ass, like, pink unicorn t-shirt. Anyway, his EAA product was adamantium aminos. And if you're an X-Men fan, adamantium is the metal that's in Wolverine that gives him the claws, a whole bunch of other stuff. And so I asked him, I said, John, Stan Lee and Marvel, lawyers knocking on your door or anything? He said, no, they don't have any kind of trademark on that name of arc reactor or adamantium in the supplement industry. That extends to movies, action figures, comic books, and all that. So he said, basically, if they were to release, if Marvel Comics released a pre-workout called Adamantium Energy or something like that, they would have to pay me or buy me out of my license or whatever. I just thought,
well,
son of a bitch.
Think about
That's
it.
Awesome.
Time Cop, Double Impact, Hard Target.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like my Q is actually a trademark, but it's like a smart garage door system or something like that. So I don't have anything to worry about when it comes to that trademark. But yeah, it's kind of weird. It's hard. I mean, we can do like any name that you have out there. Somebody's got the name, somewhere. You got to do your due diligence, make sure it's not, overtly obvious, that you're infringing on someone else's. And still, we've seen some really weird ones like get through too.
Exactly. All right. Another listener question. Top trademarked pump ingredients. So this was from a list Robbie sent me in our WhatsApp message group. So whoever sent this, thank you for sending in this question.
That was actually
there's a slight difference between trademark and pump.
So
trademark and
I'll
patented.
explain this. I actually asked you this question yesterday or 2 days ago because this was a follow-up question to a question that somebody asked me. It's actually a good friend of mine. Asked me about Citrapeak. Remember I asked you about it? Well, that's why when he told me, that how great it is, I told him, I said, I'll be very, very honest with you. I haven't worked with that ingredient. I never looked into it. I said, I saw it popping up a couple of times. I said, but it's actually good that you reminded me. I'm too lazy, I said, to do research and shit like that. I said, I'll just fucking contact Robert and that's it. So that's the reason why when I reached out to you and I answered him, I said, listen, I said, to be honest with you, again, I haven't looked into it at all. I know that some brands are using it. Robert is not a fan, and this is what he sent me. And he goes to me, oh, thank you. He goes to me, so what do you like? And at one point, I actually posted, I think I know you don't go on social media, but I posted on Instagram stories. Actually, recently, I posted what I like in terms of pump ingredients, and I remember listing citrulline, nitrates, Sulflo-6, Vasodrive, and nitrosigine. Those are the 5. That's pretty much all I did. I said these are the ones that Apollon uses. I don't use S7. I don't use Norvaline. I don't use citrulline malate. Those are the things I don't use. I'm not going to discuss them. It's just not something that I use. Then I remember he sent a follow-up this question, the top trademark pump ingredients. So because I already basically said what I like, it's your turn, guys.
Yeah, Citrapeak, Justin and I covered this several years back, but when that ingredient first popped on the market, it is basically a derivative of hesperidin, which is a little alkaloid fun phytochemical that's in citrus peel extracts. Hesperidin, there have been trials run where anywhere between 500 to 1,200 milligrams of it is effective for supporting cardiovascular health, improving blood flow and pumps. The glucosidal or glucosyl hesperidin, whatever the official chemical name or molecular formula of Citrapeak accomplishes the same benefits as hesperidin, just like a 200 to 400 milligram dose.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind, to my knowledge, there are no exercise trials in resistance-trained individuals using it. The study that this company that is selling Citrapeak is banking on is a bunch of old women stuck their hands in cold water, then took it out of the cold water, and whichever one had better thermal circulation and a better palm temperature after sticking their hand in cold water, they saw as evidence of better blood circulation to the hand, that they didn't experience as much of a drop in temperature and recovery. So that is pretty weak, in my opinion, for a blood flow enhancer.
I haven't used it on my own. It shows up in a lot of formulas. So when people have asked me about this, and I said the same thing where I said, what I usually do when I see a study that's like that weak, that pathetic, much like S7, right? I say let's reverse engineer this thing and go back to what it actually is. I said hesperidin, like what you were saying, has been used for a long time. We know what it does. We know the activity that kind of goes on there. It's pretty neat. When I look at like something like S7, if you look at what it actually is, it's a milligram of this. It's a milligram of, depending on the dosage or whatever. I said,
Yeah.
so that's when we start to go like, we'll see a study, and I'm like, well, is the study even worth it or not? And I said, so if the study sucks, that doesn't necessarily mean the ingredients there. I said, let's back it up another step and start with what it actually is. I said, but I've never used it on its own, like for any extended period of time. I said, but I wouldn't fall in love with the trademark. But if you want to talk about hesperidin, I said, then we can talk about hesperidin. And then you kind of have to make a leap that the company that did the study didn't do, that they're manipulating in some way, and then that somehow becomes better. And then you kind of go, well, I don't really know. So it's like where they're pulling it from is somewhat reliable, but what they're claiming becomes not reliable at all, because it's like the study is totally useless. So then you start to ask yourself, what the fuck are we talking about here? Like I said this to someone the other day. I said, we're doing it, Robert, you would have loved this, because someone asked me about counting collagen as protein, and it turned into this whole thing. And I said, at some point, we're just doing too many mental gymnastics to try to make something make sense. Just get rid of it. We have so many things that we know, and we don't have to ask questions, and we don't have to play the mental gymnastics and the brain games to try to figure out whether it works or not. Why don't you just use the fucking thing that works, like that we know works? Like use some nitrates, use some sodium nitrates, use some betaine nitrates, some arginine nitrates. We know they work. We're good. So just use that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want some evidence of outside of this group that doesn't have a vested interest in the Citrapeak versus hesperidin thing, look at the latest product released by Legion Athletics. Their little pump add-on thing that they did. Curtis Frank, who is their formulator, chief science officer, whatever he is, he was one of the founding members of Examine.com.
Yeah, Legion's awesome.
Guy that is smarter than the three of us and many other people combined.
Yeah, Legion's awesome.
Used hesperidin in that. He didn't use Citrapeak. He didn't use something else. He used hesperidin. So even if you discount everything we're saying here and you don't believe any of the studies we're talking about or whatever, go look up what your boy Curtis is talking about over at Legion Athletics. And, you know, that's another company. I've bought several products from them over the year, to circle back to our previous conversation. Them, Glaxon, I bought stuff from Glaxon, even though if I called up Joey or Michael, they would be willing to, you know, send me anything I needed. But yeah, I've bought stuff from them over the years. I love Glaxon's stuff. No issues with them. Would recommend them in a heartbeat. One Up Nutrition. Any other ones? Something. I've used Primeval products in the past. I've used Performax Labs products in the past. It's been a couple of years since I've used both of those. John Meadows' company, Granite Supplements, use that. I bought Ghost Gamer, several tubs of that, just because I like the way that feels. The flavoring's great. I like the huge 500 milligram dose of CDP choline. Advanced Molecular Labs. So, yeah.
Well, like one of the things that I think we talk about there, every once in a while, something will come across and we go, it's pretty rare, you know, and you don't want to like shit on things before they get any traction. But I think we see things that sound cool, and then like take the Citrapeak thing, for example. It's like, okay, it's hesperidin, and then there's this weak study, we know, so okay, well, I'll grab a bottle of it and try it if I'm that intrigued, and then add it into your mix and kind of see how it goes. But then like there's not that often does something come along where we're like, it's really, really impressive, and then it also withstands time. Sometimes it'll come out and people will rush to it initially and everybody gets all excited about it, and then you remember, didn't we just try this like a few years ago? I remember like when Mitoburn, nothing against Mitoburn, I think it's a pretty interesting ingredient, but Beba, they tried to do Beba years ago, and this is not like some revolutionary new thing like with Mitoburn. But Vasodrive, I think, was one of the ones that came out over the last few years, and it took a long time for that thing to actually get some traction, because I remember when it first kind of dropped, it was really expensive, and they were very stringent on it had to be the 508 dosage, and then they relaxed those relaxed, pun intended. They relaxed those restrictions on it, so people then started to use it because it was just really, really expensive. But that was one of those ones that came out when I read about it. I was like, that's a little different. It's a little different take on how we get to improve blood flow. So then we started using it, and I was like, man, everything I use that has this thing in it feels pretty damn good. So then you start to formulate like a full opinion. It takes a long time sometimes, and it's not that initial, but like, if you use something nitrates, I know anytime I use sodium nitrate, if I put some salt and some nitrates together, I'm good. It's as tried and true as you get.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, when you have Robert on a podcast, and obviously you, and I guess I know a few things maybe, but people expect that, oh, we know, but it's not true. We're not the only ones who know. Even people who are brands that are releasing shitty products, they know what's good. Let's be perfectly honest. I mean,
Oh, for sure.
I know. I mean, we actually talked with my manufacturer today about Vasodrive. That shit is expensive. Extremely expensive.
Right.
One fully dosed Vasodrive, I mean, you can use Norvalin, S7, probably Citropeak, and a bunch of other crap, and it's still not going to be as good.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I mean, at the end of the day, all they want to do is save money. There is no other way. I think that to do a good formula is not that hard. It's not. The research is in front of you, the dosages are in front of you, everything is in front of you. When you're using cheaper ingredients, or you're trying to justify the use of certain ingredients that are just not as effective, the only reason you're doing it is to cut cost, which I totally understand. I totally understand. You want a cheaper product, and you want, more margins, because we sell to quite a few stores. I mean, we have a good wholesale going on, but we have people that are turning us down because of the price. Because they come to us and they say, well, we want to make 60% margins. And, with your product, we can't do it. So now the owner of the supplement store basically tells you to your face or on the phone, he tells you, listen, I own a supplement store, but I don't do it for the good of the humanity or for my customers to provide them with the best supplements. I do it to make money. You can't really fault them for it. You can't really blame them. I do understand, everybody has bills to pay and stuff like that. But the other brands, they also know, when they're using S7 as opposed to nitrates, that they know exactly what they're doing. They don't need us to tell them otherwise. They know exactly what's going on. So I don't think somebody's watching us right now, a brand owner, and goes, oh my God, I didn't know. No, you did know. You did it knowingly. You put that S7 in your product knowingly, and then you said that it's a game changer, and you said how great it is, and it gives 700,000% more pump than anything else. You did it willingly, and we are not three geniuses who opened, gave you breaking news and said, "Well, look, this is better." Everybody knows. That's just that's the way it goes.
Well, I think like one thing you said was really, and it was kind of what I've been saying from the beginning, as I was walking people through the process of formulating this product and then releasing the product. I said, when we sampled it, because we did a lot of sampling, and I was like, okay, we got something going on here. But I've been telling everybody, like, from the very beginning, I tried to release it a little slowly, because what I told people, I said, I really need your feedback, especially like all the early adopters. Basically in my Instagram ecosystem, where I talk to everybody a lot anyway. I said, I know there's some data here on each of these ingredients, but no one's ever put it together in one product and tried it out. I said, I don't really know what's going to happen. And I don't know too many supplement company owners that say, because you want to tell people you have the answer for the problem. And I'm like, maybe. But then as people started to use it, I'm like, okay. But like we talked about earlier in the show, I was like, I'm still kind of trying to figure out why certain things happen, we've been sort of hypothesizing why people are getting legitimately like better sleep from a product you're taking first thing in the morning. Why does it feel and everyone's different too. You don't have consistent feedback. People their physiology is just different, and it's hard to really figure out what to listen to. But I'm like, why does this for me, if I had this and then I have some coffee, why does it feel so much different than the last like 20 years when I've been drinking coffee? And that's not me being dramatic. That's like, and I'm going, I don't fucking know. But as we're sort of digging down through it, and you're looking more, you're going, maybe there is something to it. So, I've been trying to be transparent with everybody. Like, I don't have the answers to all these questions. I said, but hopefully we can get there with some legitimate feedback. And I think that's one thing that a supplement company owner, it's why I think sometimes it's hard to take chances, because you're going to spend a lot of time educating people. If people these days, they think already, they know what they want to look for. If you release a pre-workout that doesn't have citrulline in it, even if it had nitrosamine, people are going to shit all over it because it doesn't have citrulline, even though it does the same thing, and people don't get that. But people are kind of ingrained. They like what they like. So you can't fight that, So if you're going to do something a little bit different, you better put in some time and sort of explain it, or maybe, do maybe kind of what I did, where you're including people in your process and you make them feel part of it, and then they feel more comfortable, with the product. But it's not like you said, there's lots of people that could do the same thing, but they're like, why would I do that when I can just throw some S7 and some other shit in a capsule and make, 900% on a product? That's way easier. So why not just do that? You're muted, Robert.
Yeah, I figured that out. To not completely dump on the company that sells or markets S7, which is Futureceuticals.
The same ones behind Cognatic.
Neurofactor, Cognitique. Yeah. I mean, I love that ingredient 100%. So it's just that there's certain, just because we're not fans of one ingredient from an ingredient house doesn't mean all of them are dog shit. Just in my opinion, the way the science and the studies read, S7 would be a good like tertiary or quaternary ingredient in a pump blend, but not the primary or secondary. Third or fourth ingredient in a pump blend, not the first or second.
Can't be saying words like that when you're drinking bourbon.
Sorry, that's the nerdiness comes out. The nerdiness and the polysyllabic words come out. So.
No, go ahead. But you're right, because like one of the other ingredients that I'm not really a big fan of is Spectra, unless you use it at a certain dose. It's the same as S7, where like, because people use Spectra, and I don't blame them, it's a big paragraph of a lot of things that make people pretty comfortable, right? It's like, well, it's blueberry, and it's, all these like fruits and vegetables and all that stuff. And it's like, if you see that and you go, that's pretty impressive. When you really dig down into it, is it? I mean, you got to use a certain dose. And then I think you have something there's same as S7. It's like, well, what is, a couple little bit, what's that going to do? We don't really know. But I mean, I see why they do it, and I certainly see why companies use it.
Oh, a lot of it has to do with marketing, and a lot of it, sometimes the consumer wants to see certain products for whatever reason.
Absolutely.
Maybe sold on something. I mean, as much as I, speak negatively about S7, at the same time, I have used it myself. I think we used it in bare knuckle second or third version, I think second version. And then I removed it, and I was sold on it too, because I was still sort of a beginner in the industry, and I didn't dive deep into it, and as soon as I saw that it's essentially ineffective, and there are so many better ingredients, I removed it. With Spectra, we have Spectra in one of the products as well. And, the funny thing is that people really rave about it. They want it more than anything. But, again, I guess it's well marketed, so to speak, so I think that's the reason why. So I'm not against it, but, like you said, as a secondary or a third ingredient or something like that, then I totally can understand that. But it's still, if you look into it, what's in it, it just doesn't make any sense, at all. So
Well, one of the thing, and that's a good point, because I always go through a little bit of a risk reward every time I make a formula. And one of the things that I did, one of the things that pushed me in the direction of the resveratrol, although we went out, Joey and me, we went through a conversation, we found this really impressive liposomal resveratrol. But one of the reasons why I put resveratrol in there, there's a lot of ingredients that you can use nootropically, brain health ways that, for inflammation, antioxidants, and all these things. I mean, Robert, there's a million things we could put in there. But one of the reasons why I lean more towards resveratrol, especially once I started to see some of the data, was people that I'm going to sell this product to know resveratrol. They've heard that. My mom knows what resveratrol is, just because anybody that's watched Dr. Oz, or you've heard about red wine, like people associate resveratrol with longevity and health. That's not something, I don't have to fight against that. I can let that kind of
Yeah, but at the same time, you're not saying that it's the best ingredient on the market and that's the star of the show, stuff like that. That's the main issue that I have when people are proclaiming that it's the best thing that ever created. It's again, the term game changer and stuff like that. That's what pisses me off. You want to include Spectra or whatever in your formula, that's fine, but make sure the stars of your formula are actually good ingredients and they're fully dosed, because that's what essentially it comes down to, having a good product.
When people, the issue with resveratrol has always been the body just doesn't use it very well. So I could have used a dirt cheap resveratrol ingredient, but we found the liposomal one. That one actually, we do use it, and then you start to get the benefits from it. People don't realize that they have to take grams and grams of it, where we're able to unlock that with 100 milligrams, where, like what Robert was saying earlier, CitraPeak says, hey, we've managed to, because that's what probably most of the advancements that we've seen in the supplement space, I'd say, especially over the last few years, is some sort of absorption technology, some sort of bioavailability. We're taking old concepts and we're repackaging them in a more deliverable way. And that's one of the things with this resveratrol. CitraPeak says, hey, we can take 1,200 milligrams and we can make it 200, and it's going to be just as good. But they don't have the data to back it up. There's no study. Whereas this resveratrol, they're like, here it's 4,800% more bioavailable, and they're like, here's the studies to prove it, kind of thing. And you're like, and plus people know what liposomal stuff is kind of anyway, so you don't really have to explain it. But it's when people say things and then you're like, wait, where is we were going over a product the other day on my Instagram stories. People have been talking a lot about mushrooms lately, which, mushrooms have been popular for a while, but people have been asking me a lot about it lately. And I went to this Amazon brand of mushrooms, and it was all the things, right? It was the, non-GMO and organic, and it's all these things, and it's third-party tested, and blah, 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 right? As you're looking at it, I see no evidence that any of this stuff is true. Like, I don't see where they're saying, you're not proving it to me. So you can say it if you want, but if you're not proving it to me, then, I mentioned this the other day when I said, when people say we have the cleanest pre-workout, or we have this clean whatever, I said, if you want to run around and say you have the cleanest product out there, and if you're not showing me your test results and your quality testing, and then shut the fuck up. Like, don't tell me you have the cleanest product out there if you're not going to show me your microbial tests and your other things to prove it. At least prove it to me,
Well, you know what? I think the reason why I went to the greens formula that we did with Robert, and the reason why I did not release it, I mean, I think we did that formula, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago? It's been a while.
We kick-started the idea probably 2 years ago, and then you and I discussed it maybe 6 months ago, last summer, fall time, to kind of refresh it and tweak one or two ingredients.
Yeah, well, number one, obviously, because it's those, because Robert is a fucking maniac.
Are you trying to make profit? Stop having him formulate your stuff.
It came out.
I support formulation. I don't make any claims or claim any credit for anything. I support, encourage promote.
Once I saw the gram of Vasodrive, I was like, stop that, man. Stop him.
Oh, back to the other previous ingredient. Top trademarked ingredients, Vasodrive. Yeah,
Yeah.
We
let's go.
talked about it while you were gone.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, I had to.
So we basically, obviously it's an expensive formula, but the main drawback, and that's the reason why we're gonna have to revisit it, is the fact that it tasted like shit. I mean, it was so bad. It was like to a point where it's like I couldn't fucking handle it. But the reason why I came back to it last week, one of the members at Apollon came to the gym and he goes like that, that he has a very good tasting, great greens formula by a company that I'm not going to say on air which one. It doesn't really matter. But he gave me one serving in a Ziploc bag to try. I haven't tried it yet, by the way. But a few people, I did a little research, and from this specific company, they love it. They love it. It tastes great. Everybody raves about it. And
See you, Pete. Have a good night, man. Thank you.
Good night. And I believe that it probably tastes good. But when I looked at the formula, this is the formula that that Robert would definitely not approve. I mean, I didn't approve it at all because it was kind of like 2 or 3 ingredients that looked like Spectra, but they were obviously generic. So it was just pretty much a prop blend of different fruits and vegetables, and the total amount came to like fucking 4 or 5 grams total. Well, what Robert and I did, I think it was like the scoop was like 15 grams or some shit like that, which was crazy. But you will get results. And I revisited the formula myself before Robert and I are going to have to discuss it again. And the doses that we did, I did each and every ingredient one by one. And when I looked, Googled it and looked into it, we were actually within exactly where it's supposed to be. The doses were correct. I mean, they were, I don't want to use the term clinical, but they were advised.
Mm-hmm.
So
research supported.
Research recommended doses. They were within that reach. But that one was just basically a prop blend. And I would say that, the flavoring was probably more than the ingredient themselves. But
you're also fighting.
It tastes good.
Right, you're fighting these days. Flavor, it has to taste good.
It has to taste good. So that's the reason. That's the main reason why I didn't release it, because it tasted like shit.
Because now you're facing everyone that's releasing greens formulas. They're tasting pretty good, and most of them have to dial back on the greens and maybe put in something else, to usually like some fruits or something like that. But you can't. It just won't sell if it doesn't taste good. So like you're absolutely right, which sucks because that actually goes back to when I was saying about wanting to do a powdered flavored version of brain food. I picked certain ingredients there. It's basically tasteless. Like we were tasting it this morning, just powder and water. It doesn't taste like anything. So like, Robert knows, like if I would have put tea cream or something else in there, you're going to have to fuck around with flavor quite a bit. And I didn't want to have to do that. So it's kind of like you said, it's a decision that you make, that you want to give people some effective products, but you also have to deliver it in a way that people are going to use it. Yeah, you don't mean that.
For us that are used to tasting,
me, how does it taste? The number one question today, most of the time, is what does it taste like? So they can still forgive you, on a flavor when it comes to pre-workout. They can still forgive you, especially the ones who are knowledgeable.
Sure.
But for most part, they want the pre-workout to taste like Enigma, like EAs. They want it to taste phenomenal, like protein powder, which, as many people know, once you drop the fucking nootropics and the stimulants, that's it. It's over.
Well, people started releasing effective flavors that also tasted really good. Then it kind of screwed because, like if you were to look at Glaxon Super Greens, they were kind of one of the ones, their initial runs didn't taste the greatest. Their subsequent flavors have been, but they don't have a lot of greens in that formula. To call it a greens formula is not really
modified greens.
They use like they use a lot of fruits. They use a lot of things that push that formula, so you're not fighting that greens flavor. Because, dude, I mean, someone.
But you know what? I mean, Glaxon is, when it comes to day greens, and this is another credit that I will give them, is that, well, day greens is not maybe super dose and, you know, just like clinically dosed or recommended dosages and like, but they don't make crazy claims, and that's what I respect. They
It's
actually,
great
you know,
product. I mean,
yeah, they don't make it, but they do taste good, and they are what they are without, you know, making claims. Best greens on the market, you know, game changing greens, the best for your health, for digestion and whatnot, and that I can respect that.
well,
They initially they didn't taste too good. They made some changes. They prioritized the taste. And also, don't forget that Glaxon is sold at GNC. GNC is a different market. It's mainstream. Those guys do care about the taste more than we do.
Well, they were one of the first ones too. They even said, like, on their own website, they're like, hey, when it comes down to it, a lot of these greens, you're basically just getting chlorophyll from the greens. You're not getting the micronutrients that you get when you eat greens. So we add some other things kind of to help out here and there. And I remember seeing it on their website, and I was like, well, that's fucking refreshing, because everyone else will tell you, like, you know, not everyone else, but you see these shitty greens products out there. The part that bothers me is when someone presents it in a way they say this is equal to 79 servings of greens, and you're like, volume wise, but not nutritionally. So don't say that. That's the type of stuff. It's like, it's not equal to 79 servings of greens. It's enough powder for it, but you're not getting the same nutrition from it. So that's type of misleading stuff that you see with greens, and I'm just like,
And I think it's not only greens. I think in general, if you come honest, if you come clean with your customer, I think in the long run you're going to benefit more and they're going to appreciate it more. The most comments and people were reaching out to me like nonstop actually had to do with you, Justin, about pre-workout, because it would actually, that happened with two pre-workouts. One was that Jaffa Orange Assassin, the 6.5. I made a comment, and the other one was, I think maybe Bloody Hooligan or maybe Fuck Mediocre, that you made a comment. So one of the comments that you made, you said that you're disappointed because it tastes good. Obviously,
yeah.
but that was an inside joke, obviously, you know, between us, and it wasn't anything negative. It was actually a funny thing to say. And I remember 2 or 3 people, like not a lot, but they reached out to me like, how can you say that? You know, he's insulting you. I'm like, it's a fucking joke. It's nothing behind it. If anything, I said he's sending praises that the pre-workout is good, and he's used to what we used to have before with Assassin, so it's a compliment. And the second one was that I made. Remember, I released a video that we were releasing Assassin, re-releasing Assassin, the nasty tasting one, and I said it tastes like shit on video. I did say
I do remember that. Yeah.
And people were like, how can you say that about your product? Like, what the fuck are you doing? I was like,
well, you're going to taste it and you're going to know.
It tastes like shit. I didn't say it's a bad pre-workout. I did say that Assassin, the current Assassin, in my opinion, is a better product. But that one is strong. It's very aggressive. And there are people who like that. Personally, it's not me. But there are a lot of people that like it. And I was just being honest about it. And people are so used to lies and, you know, misinformation, then when you're being honest with them, they're like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, you're supposed to say that it's the best tasting on the market. It's the best pre-workout on the market. It's the strongest pre-workout on the market. Like,
yeah,
guys, I'm not going to say it, because if I say it and it's not true, you're going to fucking make comments and say, well, Robbie's a liar because that pre-workout tastes like shit, you know, and it's not the strongest Assassin. It's not the best Assassin. And again, pre-workout's best, that's very subjective.
I kind of screwed myself, not on purpose, but the biggest thing I was worried about when I was
Kristen okay with that, or
absolutely not. When you were the one earlier said something about spicing up your back end and something, and I forget what it was, but so right before we officially launched Brain Food, TNS had some inventory and they were selling some of it. So the biggest concern I had, I did not want these people in our space thinking this was a pull in overtime, right? I didn't want them thinking this was a smart truck. So I downplayed it so much. I actually had a girl, she was one of the first people that bought it, and she's like, I was like, what do you think? And she's like, it's not supposed to like give me focus and energy, right? And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, I feel like really lit up mentally and I have all this focus and energy, but you're kind of saying it's not supposed to do that. And I was like, no, like it's good. Like, don't worry. Like it is supposed to do that. I tried so hard to like not put false expectations up because people are going to use it and then they're going to go, well, you're full of shit. So I had probably swung the pendulum too far in the other direction, saying, I don't want you to think it's a smart truck. And so people were like, oh, is something wrong with this thing? Because I feel really, mentally alert and all this focus and energy. And I was like, I can't win, I guess. This is trying to be honest,
But I think that's at the end what is maybe even a new angle, so to speak. It's a great, I think, marketing tool. Honesty, something that a lot of people kind of forgot how to do. It's crazy because you're so used to best tasting protein on the market, strongest pre-workout on the market, game changer, best ingredient will give you 1,000,000% more pump, more energy, more focus. And those are the things that the same thing happened with Bare Knuckle. When Bare Knuckle was released now, somebody says to me, well, this thing is not supposed to give you energy, but I'm so energized, I'm so focused. I'm like,
something wrong? Is it spiked?
Great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to make those claims because not I'm scared. It's just like, I think it can come back and bite you in the ass at the end. And a lot of times that's exactly what happens. People are making false claims. And I think that if they kind of went around, if you're releasing a shitty pre-workout or a cheap pre-workout, just say it. And that's the reason why I had the problem with all these daily drivers. The fuck is a daily driver? I mean, for some, I know that for some daily drivers are assassin. That's a daily driver. But I know Robert, when we send him out packages that he orders, and I remember, I know that Robert on a regular basis fucking orders Universal Soldier, and I'll bet anything that he takes it as a pre-workout. So who am I to tell him not to take it as a pre-workout if he wants to use it as a pre-workout? And it can be used as a pre-workout. It has the ingredients to make it a decent pre-workout. Maybe that's his daily pre-workout. But just because something is cheap, they call it, oh, look, a daily pre-workout. Why? Because it's cheap. No, it's cheap because you fucking didn't put anything in it. That's the reason why it's cheap. And you're calling it daily because you want to sell more, so people will use it on a daily basis, so they run out and buy more from you. That's the only reason. So tell the truth. You made a cheaper pre-workout, not a daily driver, because Hooligan can be a daily driver too.
I don't use any pre-workout daily. I usually use a
different
pre-workout.
Ones.
Huh?
Different ones. You use different ones when needed.
Right, but at most, I'm training 5 days a week. If it's just like a HIIT session or a cardio workout or something like that, I'm not taking a pre-workout. If it's chest and back or a push day, leg day, shoulders and arms, whatever kind of rotation Sandy and I are working through at the time, I will use a pre-workout on those days. But some days it's bare knuckle. I'll have, a French press of coffee that I'll make in the morning. And then an hour later, I'll mix up some bare knuckle after that, or a different stim-free pre-workout that I have, or just, some capsules of a pump supplement that I have, either Bloody Hell or some of the caps that Todd from Nutrition 21, when he was there, sent me for New Level or nitrosogene. I don't understand the daily driver thing. If like my laptop that I'm doing this podcast on is my daily driver. I use that every single day, no matter what. This keyboard that's right here, this external keyboard, is an every third day driver. You don't need a pre-workout every damn day of the week.
Well, I think some of it too came from some of these companies that have gone into like bigger retail, bigger box retail, Walmart and stuff like that. I think because sometimes you get into a position where you have, it's not the companies, and I mean, you guys are right. Obviously, I agree with you guys, but there is situations where the retailer themselves will say, we need, it was kind of like C4 back in the day. And then there was like C4 Sport and C4 Ripped. And it's not their decision. That's Walmart telling them that we need
Yeah.
this version of it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you're seeing like, so I think when you start seeing like a Rise come out with a Elemental or a daily kind of pre-workout, then companies that are not following the same distribution start being like, oh, Rise made one, so we have to make one. But then you're like, well, they're making one for a reason. You're making one just to copy off kind of what they're doing. And then the whole concept sort of loses its, because they're specifically being asked perhaps to make one for a customer that a retailer says, we have customers that want this, so make this. And they're like, okay, here's your product. And then you see people in our space, because we can't think of like our own ideas in the space too often, they're like, well, what did Rise do? What did Ghost do this today? Let's make the same thing. And then you're like, well, now what are we doing? Now it's, kind of all gets, convoluted. So Peptastrong, we could talk about Peptastrong. Actually, I have some lengthy thoughts about Peptastrong.
Yeah, from Nick P. What are your guys' opinion on Peptastrong?
So one of the things I always give Klaxon credit about is, and this is a personal thing too, because they always include me, and they do a lot of testing. And I mean, like, they'll start testing stuff. So Joey, they hit me up because, a lot of people in our space, they'll test muscle builders, but they're on something, and they're like, yeah, I use this Peptastrong, man. I put on 37 pounds of muscle. And it's like, yeah, well, with the trend, or whatever else you're taking.
Yeah.
So Joey and Michael, I remember, reached out to me a few years ago. They're like, well, we know that you're an Addy, and so you actually
allegedly. I need to see the blood test.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Hey, we don't need. No. So they said they wanted me to try Peptastrong. Well, they didn't tell me what it was at the time. They wanted me to try Fortitropin, the yolked, whatever, with the egg yolk Fortitropin, and this. And because they were like, we're trying to figure out a different way to go. But to their credit, this was way before Anomaly ever came out. And we tried out the Fortitropin. I was like, I got nothing from whatever this is. I was at absolutely nothing. And what we were doing at the time, now granted, you can throw some things off by doing it this way, but I started to focus on specific lifts at the gym. And anytime you start to focus on specific lifts, your numbers will usually go up and things like that. But I had significant strength increases taking this other thing that they had sent me. And I took it for a really long time, and it ended up being this Peptastrong, which I don't know that it has like crazy good data behind it, but that was my experience with it. And then I definitely noticed they wanted me to stop taking it and see how I felt. And we were kind of like going on and off and measuring the soreness and all this other stuff. And so we actually went through a pretty controlled experiment with it, and I really liked it. And then I think whatever else that they're putting in here, that GG Gold, I think elevates it just a little bit, at least from my understanding. So I had a pretty good experience with it. We still use it to this day. I've been using Anomaly off and on, for years.
Yeah, and there have been a few other companies that have released a Peptastrong inclusive product over the past 6 months or so.
Yeah, I don't know if Klaxon had like a exclusive for a little while on it or something, because then Core started using it out of nowhere, and then a couple other people started using it.
Yeah, I mean, so Joey and Mike and the gang started using it 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Soul Performance started using it a month ago. Core started using it 3 months ago, and then SNS started using it 3 months ago.
There's a company that has always made some cool stuff that rarely gets talked about, I feel like.
Steve Wood and SNS, I love them. I mean, like, affordable products, super quality doses, quality manufacturing. I've bought numerous bottles of Joint Support XT over the years, and they're what's their GDA glycophase? When people look for glucose disposal agents and stuff, years ago, I would recommend their glycophase product.
Yeah, we were always. I mean, when we were going over Stacked years ago, you and I, like every week, they always had something cool on there.
Yeah.
No, it's a very good company. Yeah, they don't get enough credit, and they definitely deserve more because
That's a cool formula.
They make cool stuff.
Vasoflow, specialized green and black tea leaf extract. That's a cool formula. Anyway, yeah, I liked it. I don't know if you've ever used Pepto Strong, but I liked it. I haven't used the core because a lot of people will ask me a lot, like, should I buy Core Bolic or should I buy Glaxon Anomaly? And I'm like, that much I really can't. I really can't tell you.
What's in Core? Let me pull up Core Bolic real quick.
It's a little bit different. There's something unique about it because Core makes good stuff. They make good.
Yeah. Yeah, Doug and the gang there do some good stuff. Let me see. Supplement facts. So we got 2,400 milligrams Pepti Strong, 350 grams Raponticum, Carthamoides. So that was what Epicatechin and some of those other relatives of whatever you're talking about of terkesterone, so like disterone, that Performax used to use is from Raponticum.
Oh yeah. Matt, was it like Mass Max or something like that that nobody could figure out or pronounce anything that was on that label?
Yeah.
I would get questions about that all the time. I'm like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a minute since I've talked to Aaron, but they usually do some really solid stuff over there.
Yep.
But yeah, Core Bolic looks solid. Without using this or having used any other core stuff, but usually their formulas are solid. And when Kenton was there, he is one of the sharpest guys, kind of like Joey at Glaxon, and Kenton has a vocabulary orders of magnitude higher than I do.
I think. Well, no, Glaxon too. They use the DR caps.
Yeah, so that probably helps with the absorption and the uptake and all of that.
Yeah, I like it. I don't know.
Yeah,
it is what it is. I mean, for these, I would say for these, natural muscle builders, like I certainly would grab this before I would grab like terkesterone or anything like that.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's coming, James. It's coming.
Hopefully not another 2 years. There was one question. I know we've been going on for almost 2 hours, but there's one question I actually meant to ask both of you. And it's a subject that all three of us have kind of been always negative about. But in a podcast on Saturday, we were talking to Jason Arns, and Jason's a good friend of mine. He owns the brand I Prevail.
Guy's awesome. I love Jason.
Yeah, he's really a good guy, and he's been a friend for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
And he touched upon a subject that I've been always very critical of, but I could see his point to an extent, and I won't say that I reversed my opinion, but maybe just opened my mind a little bit more to it, and that is proprietary blends. So, he knows that I get both flattered and annoyed at the same time, people copying formulas and looks and stuff like that. And he goes, no, I totally understand it. He says, if there was a way to protect the formula through something like proprietary blend where you actually protect it, so people would not copy it to an extent where, dose for dose and stuff like that, because we've seen it happen, of course. And, with any transparent formula, yes, you are basically telling people what you're doing. So if I want to copy you or you want to copy me, there is nobody can stop us. So I could see it. The problem is that I'm still convinced that 99.9% of people that do prop blends do it for mostly financial reasons where they're trying to cut corners. That is my strong belief. And because so many people have done it, I feel like it's very difficult to go back and do it right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's possible to do hooligan or assassin in a prop blend. I mean, the same dosages, just not disclose what they are. So it is possible to do it.
Well, even before you go further, I know like a lot of people will already know this, but like I'll give an example. So when we did our testing, our post-manufacturing testing for brain food, because I have on there 100 milligrams of each ingredient, then you have to hit that mark of 100 milligrams. You know, you have your tolerance in there. But when we go through the testing of each ingredient, if I prop blended this, the only thing that you would have to show is that that ingredient is in there at all. So when you go through the testing process, it becomes much easier for a manufacturer, much easier for a brand. So I know people, they understand proprietary blends, but also when you say it's cheaper, you know, for the brand, or you can manipulate, maybe you have an ingredient that's more expensive. I could have put that liposomal resveratrol in there at 1 milligram or whatever, and it doesn't reach a clinical dose. So then there's that part. But also when it comes to us having to test our ingredients, it's more complicated to hit your target number. And if you're proprietary blending, you don't have a target number to hit. So adding to the layer of what you already said, I think some people, if you've not gone through the testing process, wouldn't know that. So there's a lot of things.
I think, yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that I think the initial intention, or at least I would like to believe that that was the initial intention, to actually to protect and not to show the exact breakdown of the ingredients doses. That's what I would like to believe. But we all know that for most part, that's not the case. For most part, it's instead of putting 3 grams to 6 grams of citrulline, there's going to be 200 milligrams or something like that in a proprietary blend formula. However, when we are off the air, I'm not going to say it on air, Robert and I discussed a combination. I don't know, Robert, if you remember, or if you can remember what I'm talking about. When I was at Supply Side West, I called Robert about a combination of 2 ingredients that possibly could yield phenomenal results. But I know that if we actually disclose that, then, and if it actually worked, because we first have to try it, we're yet to try it. If it worked, I mean, everybody would be doing it. But if we combine it in a prop blend, we would actually be able to hide, you know, the formula itself, the effectiveness of the combination of the 2 products. So I do
ketamine and methamphetamine.
I was gonna say trend.
Solid combo.
Yeah. So
solid combo.
I think that it's something that's possible, and I think that there is an angle of doing it properly. So I think that, without naming anyone, if there is a supplement brand that is known for proprietary blend and known to be a garbage brand, so to speak, if they're going to release a next proprietary blend, even if it's good, I mean, we already don't trust them. We already don't believe them because we know that they shit. But if a proprietary blend came from you, or from me, or from Ben, I'm inclined to believe that people would believe us that we're actually doing it to protect the formula.
Talking about Ben and Morphogen?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure. Okay.
A good one. I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
But I think that I'm inclined to believe that people would actually believe us. So it's a risk, you know, especially coming from somebody who shit on proprietary blends for 8 years. It would be a risky move. But I think if we came with an explanation, because the combination that Robert and I talked about, we haven't tried it. It's something that in theory might potentially work. Robert did find some studies and some research behind it, but again, it's something that we need to test out. But once we put it on a transparent formula, on a transparent label, the cat is out of the bag. I mean, now everybody knows what's up, and you know, that would actually piss me off, to be honest. So
Yeah, I mean,
I
I
want I
get
want
it.
your opinion about possibility of a prop blends, but done right. Is it doable, and would it change your mind, your approach, or would you still prefer to have it a fully transparent formula?
It also kind of depends on the formula itself, like where. Um,
Yeah.
Sorry, Robert. Go ahead. I was just going to say I've always said not all proprietary blends are inherently evil, but
Me too.
time they are. And also, like one of the things, like it would be genius if I proprietary blended my product, but then like made the proprietary blend, because a lot of people will see a proprietary blend and they think that's a good thing because they're like, well, that means that person has discovered something that no one else has discovered. Like you have some kind of secret sauce going on in there. So yeah, there's definitely a marketing. Go ahead, Rob.
I mean, if it was an ingredient that you were first to market with and you owned, or say Joey at Glaxon uncovered some analog of a phytochemical
They did do that.
in some plant. Yeah. They uncover that, they do that. They're first to market with it and want to protect that. I understand that. I pitched Aaron at Performax on this combination, not for them to use. I didn't do any formulation with them, but this was just, hey, I stumbled across this ingredient with this combination. So it was olive leaf extract plus some celery root extract, because celery acts in a certain way, or a certain alkaloid in celery root extract acts as a pump enhancer in conjunction with a couple of other things for cardiovascular benefits and blood pressure reduction in hypertensive patients. So I thought maybe these two would be really cool. And he said, I like what you're thinking, but the average consumer isn't going to understand what the fuck we're going for. They're going to see a bunch of nonsense on the label, and it doesn't matter what we call it. It's probably not a good idea. Or like it might be beneficial, but we need to get the average consumer to a higher level of understanding. So I understand where he's coming from, plus where the average consumer. Now, granted, when I first got into the industry to where today the average consumer knows a lot more, but they're also duped a lot more by all the stupid shithead influencers that are out there. I'll use a bunch of other expletives, but I don't want to get us demonetized. So,
Well, to your point, so Glaxon, this is a good example because I think I don't want to speak too out of turn here, but I think like what Glaxon did, so everything Glaxon does basically is fully transparent, right? But they had their MyoSeq sequence of amino acids in their intro product, and what they said was they're like, we don't have anything proprietary, and you would see that from time to time, like Amino 9, something that Caged used was a trademark proprietary blend of amino acids.
Yeah, from Compound Solutions, which
right. So, but what Glaxon had, they said, we think we've come across this sequence that mimics skeletal muscle of amino acids, and we're going to protect that. And we created this blend of amino acids that not just the basic BCAAs, EAAs, whatever, this very specific sequence of them, and they trademarked it and they protected it. But I don't think anybody got it. Like, I don't think that, like, no one really, the MyoSeq thing never really caught on. It was hard for them to explain. People didn't understand it. So it was kind of one of those things where they were sort of ahead of the schedule, maybe. I think some people tried it in the past, did it in the past, so it wasn't like a revolutionary thing. But I think they almost like to what Aaron was saying, they almost like outthought themselves, where it's like, oh, we got this cool thing, but then people were like, where's the amino acids? Like, where's the BCAAs? And you're like, fuck.
Yeah, and I think you also need to understand what is your intended benefit from the prop blend. So I've used several tubs of G Fuel, the little powdered gamer supplement. When I bought that at the time, I was under no misguided notions that this was like the be-all end-all brain blaster supplement that it was hyped to be. I didn't care about that. It was something that was delicious tasting. It had a certain amount of caffeine with a pixie dusting of some other stuff that instead of taking coffee in the afternoon, I will use that if I want something that's kind of flavored. And I'll mix some other powdered supplements like Lion's Mane, Reishi, Chaga, some of that other stuff in there. The flavoring in that is strong enough. Plus, it's got a little bit of a booster in it if I've had coffee or a pre-workout at 7 a.m. when I typically work out. And if I
There's
want something a
people
little
crying all over the internet right now as he's saying this, Rob.
extra. I've said it before. I
I'm
mean,
just kidding.
it's fine. But like, there are certain things that I keep in the pantry.
I
That,
got
like,
you.
you
Yeah.
just want something that kind of tastes good. Like I might as well have used a Gatorade packet and an instant caffeine tablet or whatever.
Mhm.
It's fine. You get 40 or 50 servings for $20, whatever. I'm under no notions that it's going to change the world or anything. It tastes great. It's
Did
great
you hear
tasting
that?
caffeine. It's like an energy drink. It's great tasting caffeine. I'm fine with that.
Great tasting and cheap. That's what it all comes down to right there. Great tasting.
Yeah, and then I add my actives
Son of a
of what
bitch.
I'm looking for. So
No, I got you. I think like still to this day, some of the wildest pre-workout experiences I've had are from they'll proprietary blend, the stimulant blend at least, and I'm like, hey man, that's fine. Or because when I tell people, if you're in the market, what I don't really like is a product that is leaning towards the health crowd. Like you're like, okay, we're going to give you these specific health benefits, whether it's joint health or brain health or cardiovascular health. If you do that and you start proprietary blending things, that's where it's like, well, there's specific things that you need to hit if you're going to claim that you're going to be able to help someone's not medical issues, because we're not allowed to do that. But if you start pushing into someone's specific, health kind of concerns, then, if you make something proprietary blended, I don't really care for that too much, because you're supposed to be hitting certain numbers for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, any
All right.
listeners out
So-
there, you got any more questions? Let us know. Otherwise, I think it might be time for the grandpas to hop off.
And we promise it's not going to be 6 months now.
2 hours later, and it all comes down to cheap and flavorful. That's the name of this podcast now. The cheap
Just
and
how I
flavorful.
like my women, cheap and flavorful.
Right. All right,
There
guys.
was one more question that we had that we did not address.
What's up?
Is the podcast going to be on a regular basis?
Yeah, I mean, I was saying this. I was laying into our space a little bit this week because people were talking about the drama, and I said, look, this isn't me standing on a soapbox. I was like, this whole thing, like, I get it. Where like if you're business owners, whatever, there's a certain mental stress and things that you do that can't really be replicated. I was like, this is not hard work. I was like, we're not that busy. We're not like, yeah, you're busy and you do stuff, but we're fucking around a lot. I was like, this is not like the hard work that a lot of people do out there on a day-to-day basis. We got time. We got time. I'm not that busy. So
No, I mean, we obviously can't promise that I know that a lot of people, once we posted that we're going to do this, even though I fucked up with the date, instead of 117, I put 116. But despite that, a lot of people have reached out and they were very happy, that we're going to do this. And I think that we can safely say that we maybe not on a weekly basis, but probably once every 2 weeks or so, we can definitely do it. And, it's obviously we are having fun, so why not? And, as long as people want to listen to what we have to say, I mean, why not? And there's always something happening in the industry. Apart from drama, of course, releases by different companies, different products, and of course, I'm looking forward to see what Justin's going to do in 2024, because he had a very good start and I think he did it the right way. And, we obviously going to do a couple of things, and,
we're obviously going to do a couple of things.
So it's going to be an interesting year, just like, the last couple of years. So yeah, stay tuned, and definitely we'll try to do it more often.
All right, gentlemen.
All right.
As we close out, we have everybody's contact links listed in the comments below. But Justin, where can everybody find you?
Supplement Snoop on Instagram is where you'll find me most days. I do post a lot on the MyQ Brain Food at MyQ Brain Food Instagram. I'm usually on Instagram the most. I'll be doing other platforms soon, but that's where you can find me most often.
Mr. Samborski?
Same thing. I'm on Instagram. It's easy to reach out to me. I try to answer at least most of the questions, and I'm fairly active. So yeah, just like Justin, you can always reach out to me. That's no problem at all.
Okay. Any future questions for this trio of supplement nerds? Leave a comment down below. Hit me up at robert@supplementengineer.com and check out the Supplement Engineer Patreon at patreon.com/supplementengineer. And we'll catch you all next time.
Take care, guys.
Get the fuck back on social media, Robert.